I know it's not perfect. Hopefully I get better at this. No promises. I am going to show you a flat earther taking a political compass test. Now, these guys, I don't know who they are, but they have been on the internet since 2001, and their claim to fame is that they have reviews, I guess. So I would like to show you the spectrum, because that's what these guys are pushing, is a spectrum ideology. And the rules of their little game here, let's just go through them. I'm going to attempt to be as, I would say, liberal, but since the topic of this video is basically how people don't understand conservative and liberal, why don't I go ahead and explain what my perspective on the situation is. To me, liberal means a lot. Conservative means a little. So when you're talking about how much military spending, liberal means a lot. Conservative means a little. All right? So this is the argument between a free and open government, is how much government? When does the free market have exclusive control? When do they have limited control? When do they have no control at all? Like, for instance, if you go out and start a nuclear bomb building, manufacturing nuclear bombs, no one's going to let you do that. All right, so in that, our country right now is liberal. That's big government, that's big oversight in that. Now, what happens if government has just a little bit of money, though? Do they have thousands of different policies that we need to decide how much and how little? No, they have few areas that are their purview. And our Constitution of the United States is a conservative document. It makes the United States a conservative country, because what they're doing is they're limiting the size of the government. They saw the size of government as a dangerous thing. Dangerous. Because the less people in control, the less people that can make rational choices and go the way that the free market will allow, or whatever markets are influencing the economy, those have the ability to run rampant, or there's restriction on them. So there are arguments to be made for liberal amounts of government in some aspects. But if you have a small government, then the extent of government reach can never become gigantic in one thing. Like, for instance, to me, the justice system is completely out of control. Every single any court engagement, any speeding tickets I've ever seen, anything that I've ever been a witness to in the courts has been completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. I mean, these people declared war on plants. Okay? And to me, the solution to that is that if they don't have trillions of dollars to hand out, then they're going to be like, no, a drug war is just not here. It's just not in the budget. And that's where they should stay, because they just made up some claims. First off, they had government science figure out that marijuana caused brain damage, right? Brain damage. And now it's treating people for all sorts of nerve damages and sorts of eye damage. And there's medical benefits. So the government doctors didn't help us there. Why? Because they were trying to create more liberal government. They wanted more funds. So this is my perspective on the whole thing, is that it has nothing to do with, these people don't really like act based on anything. They just say whatever it takes to split the populace just about down the middle. And my evidence for that is that lots of policies are actually, they're on the wrong side of the fence. For instance, the drug war was proposed by Republicans. Conserve what? The weed? Conservation of a weed? They needed to conserve. No, it has to do with the size of the government. If you outlaw weed, is that going to require a whole bunch of whatever, task forces and government intervention? Are you going to need to have laws drafted and then jails built, and then you're going to have to employ police with public funds? It's socialized. These are all socialized things because this is all liberal. This is all big government. All of it. Like, you might have to work for your living, but there's an entire sector of the populace that does not do that. What they do is they follow the leader the best. They brown nose for a living. These are the socialized institutions. That's how education has failed us, because of socialism. It's because they're not there to be the best teachers that can exist. They're there to get promotions and tenure and length in the classroom, or, you know, whatever. Okay, they want to get retirement, right? And because of that, they're not trying to teach the best stuff. They're just trying to do what they're told the best. This has been a problem, big time. And this is one of those problems that occurs from a big government, because you start having less individual thinkers. That's how I see it. Is the more rules or more restrictions that you have on people, the less people are able to like fill gaps that are actually going to be there. And someone doesn't have the foresight to look ahead, just like, you know, they've been pretending to work on cancer, right? And then what did independent researchers find out? That marijuana is helping with cancer. So they've been taking all these donations and not getting anything done. But then when it came right down to it, all they had to do is get the government out of the situation. Let the people decide what is good and bad, you know, get them out of the whole situation. So this is where I'm coming from with all of it. I don't believe in the globe. I'm going to try and take anything that these guys say with, you know, a grain of salt, and I'm just going to try and honestly answer their questions, even if I feel that they are ridiculous. So I'm just going to do my best to honestly answer their questions and see where they put me in their proposed spectrum, which I disagree with. All right, I'll get into that later, though. If economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. So, I'm going to say that economic globalization is here. Obviously, the Earth is flat, but economic globalization to me would be buying and selling things from any province across the Earth. So, it is inevitable, and I believe that is here to some extent. It should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. And the problem with this question is that each of these has some deep definitions that, you know, I really can't get on board with this question at all. I really can't answer it honestly, but like I said, I'm going to try. So, it should serve humanity rather than the transnational corporations. I believe that both parties are there to serve humanity, so it should primarily serve humanity. I'll say agree. I'd always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. And this has to do with like a gradient that they're trying to ignore in reality. Now, my country is at war constantly, and I have never been supportive of any of these wars. There was a time when I was uninformed enough not to realize how criminal what was going on was, but I've never supported that. However, if somebody comes through and starts killing my people, then obviously I'm going to have to support that. So I'm going to have to support, my people from getting killed, obviously, in case I have to clear that up. So I'm going to have to go ahead and say agree. No one chooses his or her country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. I am going to have to say that I disagree, because if I was born, say, 35 years ago, and I became a flat earther, and I was looking back at the U.S. Constitution, I would respect those men that wrote it as geniuses, as, who knows if they were good or bad men, and who knows what the eventual plan was with their document, but they saw what was happening with the British. They saw what the British were doing to harass people in their time. And they were like, okay, we don't want that stuff in our new government, hence the Bill of Rights. And so I'm proud of those men. They are possibly not even related to me. I'm not sure. I don't pay attention to genealogy any more than in a cursory fashion. But let's move on. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. And I'm assuming they're not talking about the human race here. Human race. Our race. I am assuming they're talking about... See, relative is not a good way to, Relative ethics, this is the second time they've brought up. Basically, they're asking me, do you have relative ethics? No, I don't. They're trying to get me to say that I do. But they're saying our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. Many is going to be implying more. And I would say that I don't necessarily agree with that, because I'm not well versed in all the qualities of people. I see a lot of people thinking and acting the same. So, and to tell you the truth, throughout college, throughout my life, I've had lots of roommates. And my favorite roommate was from India. His name was Parmod. Great guy. Totally different from the American roommates. I can assure you that there are qualities in other races that are being lost in America, even if some places actually still have them. Places in Montana have superior qualities than people in, say, Connecticut. That's white. So what I'm saying is both of those are majority white populations, and they're the same, but they're vastly different when it comes to their quality. So I'm going to say that I just disagree slightly with this. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. No, it sounds like you're surrounded by enemies. So I'm going to say strongly disagree. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. International law is just a small group of people, so is sometimes justified. I would say no. Sometimes justified. See, that's terrible because sometimes you're talking about sometimes. I'm gonna have to say that I disagree, but strongly. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. Defies international law. To me, international law is the same law that God made. So I'm going to have to go ahead and say I strongly disagree. There's now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. A worrying fusion. I don't know what that means. I would say, where else would you put information than entertainment? And yeah, people are lying. Is that your question? Yeah, people are lying to us, but no, there's no worrying fusion of information and entertainment. There's a worrying fusion of people that believe their TVs as if it's like Jesus. That's the problem. Okay, people are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. I mean, class is a man-made division, you know. So the nationality. So, gosh, I honestly need to look up what they're referring to as nationality. Is nationality when you believe in the laws that the people before you set down? Is that nationality? Do you believe that the people were smart enough after the revolution to decide what they couldn't live with? I think that they were. I mean, gosh, I'm trying to be as non-combative with these answers as I can be, but this is all of politics. It's muddying the issue. It's just clouding it with, it's just nonsense, okay? So I'm going to say that I'm going to say that your question is not that good, but disagree. If that's, yeah, they're making you decide between these definitions. And it makes no sense because to me, it's like this. A constitutionalist is a class, isn't it? Is that a class? So what if they're, all classes are division. Such a dumb way to, these people are professional political analysis majors. That's what they did. They're probably doctoral level. That's probably what's going on here, judging by the thickness of the bullshit, okay? All right, so let me just try and continue. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. I mean, there's like, why do you guys need to be involved in any of it? That's the thing, is could a free market solution coin money? Maybe not. Yeah, maybe not. right now, that's actually what we have is a free market solution. The Federal Reserve is a free market solution that should be, isn't this funny? This is one that should be liberal, right? It should be taken over by the government. This should be a socialized thing, and this one isn't. Okay? That's why I say that it's all just nonsense. They're just like, oh, well, so you think this? Do you deny? Okay? It's all just nonsense in the end. But controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. I'm going to say that I agree, maybe even strongly, but since it's begging the question of which ones do need to be controlled, like this one shouldn't be controlled by the government. Unemployment, that does not, that's how you get less employment, is when the government steps in and says, okay, now you got to pay us for this and this and this. And then you got to, there's fees for this and this. And then you got to requirements for, these degrees when you hire someone, and then they've got to fill out these forms in order to, and they got to prove their migratory status, and they got to prove that they're citizens, and you got to prove that all this. That's when you get less and less ability for people to just create jobs on their own. Like I should be able to pay somebody with the leaves I get off my yard if somebody could actually come up with a use for them. And provide me a service that I would exchange for it. Like, look how great that would be. But the government says, nope, if it's not worth X amount of dollars and X amount more in order to pay us the fees and us the licensing that you're going to need, and then to hire the specific people that we want you to hire, then, okay, that's how you ruin employment. And that's how you force untenable situations, and maybe an 18-year-old kid isn't worth the minimum wage, which is going to be $20 an hour by the time you watch this. So either way, these questions they're dishonest. Okay. Now, in my opinion, inflation would be a government thing. I'm conservative. I believe that a government has to exist in a way. It does. I think it does. I'm not sure about that. I could be wrong. But people are too passive to really even protect their own interests. And I can understand that, the need for having a government and a defense. But what's going on with this big government and everything that is bad situation that we've got going on is that by the time somebody graduates from high school, they don't know what a liberal is and they don't know what a conservative is. Like Nick Fuentes, he doesn't know. That's what this is in response to. So let me just move along, show where this thing puts us. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. I strongly disagree. They do require regulation, right? Because the people in your town will go up and be like, you have been dumping sewage, and they will stop you. I agree that there will be regulation, but not by whoever you say. These companies either need to be good, or they need to go, people need to know about that and then stop supporting them, and then free market. Okay, not all of these rules to force them to be good. How about if they're not good, then we drive them out of business and out of their homes? I mean, any other questions? This is from each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. This is Karl Marx. And no. I mean, here, let's look at this. From each according to his ability. Okay, yeah, that sounds fine. To each according to his need. What? So you're saying that people that have ability have to do a lot, and then people that need a lot just get it? No. No. That's literally our system now. That's why Neil deGrasse Tyson is considered like an astrophysicist. Even though, like, accomplishments, oh, well, a little light on those, but he runs the this and that planetarium. I run a P900 from my porch. It's 2-meter lens. What do you got at the Hayden Planetarium? A 3-meter lens? What do you got? It's not much better. It's quite a bit better, but you know what I'm saying. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. It is a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now they're saying is now this. No, water has always been a consumer product. We didn't even have bottles before. That sucked. People didn't even put brands on it. So you didn't know who was making your water or where. In some cases, in a lot of cases it was you. It was your well. So it is a sad reflection on our society. I would say I disagree with that. I think I hear what they're getting at, but that's the problem when you can't put together isolated questions. You're wrapping things up in. These are emotional questions. These are not legitimate, scientifically oriented questions. Unless they're asking me how stupid I am. That could be. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. It should not be a commodity. Dang, that's a big one. I didn't realize I was going to need to research for this. I think that buying land has downsides, but if you don't have your own private property, then where do you even put your stuff? So if it's not yours, then yeah, if you don't have land to put your stuff, you have no stuff. It's in somebody else's land. That means it's theirs. Possession being 9/10 of the law. So, I understand that that's based on the assumption of law, and it's based on so it's not a great argument. Land has always been bought and sold. It's the natural order. It's been battles throughout history. It's been resources. It's been, that's what it's always been. Even with the Native Americans, it was bought and sold with blood or gold or something. So shouldn't be is basically denying reality. And I'm going to have to say that I strongly disagree with that. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. Well, if they're doing both of these things, then obviously that's bad. And I agree that there are a lot of people that are probably doing those two things. But the majority of people are not doing that and don't have the means to do that type of stuff. So it is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. If, you know, yeah, if they are contributing nothing to their society, then that would be regrettable. But personal fortune, it can mean something. It was supposed to mean something. Right now, I'm not sure if it means what it used to mean. I feel like the bad guys won all the chips. The people that were willing to, overlook their oaths, to keep their houses or to keep their property, right? It's all, it's this mixed mash of like, should there be property ownership? Well, I mean, it depends. Are government wages going to buy up all the private property so that only yes men end up owning property? It's the problem when the major consumer in your country is the government, Like, who cares what I think should happen with whether land should be bought or sold? It's kind of like it's always been bought and sold, right? So they're just asking me if reality exists here. Are they doing the same thing here? If they earned these fortunes, then at some point they did something. Now, these days we have government, a huge government consumer that says, you get to be rich now. We signed a contract with you, so now you make all of our boots, and now you get to be a rich man. And so maybe that guy ends up making terrible boots or something. I get it. But this is a problem with the main consumer in the economy being this big old entity that who knows what they're doing. They're probably just hiring their friend to make the boots so that their friend can be rich and they can get a kickback. This is the thing, is I believe the government should be as small as possible and only deal with things that could not be accomplished by the free market. Like, school is an excellent example. There's no reason for the government to be involved in school. What? There's basically what you're saying when you do that is you're saying the only people that can figure out reality are the government. What? The only people qualified to teach reality are the government. No. That's one thing that no matter what side of the fence you're on, no. We should not have socialized schools. How about policing? Is that the same way? Yeah, it kind of is. Where we could hire companies and then if they're insane, then we can shut them down. We can start hiring a different company. This is the deal. All these big government things, this is the problem with the whole situation. So what they're asking me is, shouldn't it be okay to force people, even if they've got money, to go and make boots? Basically, is that what they're asking here? It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. It's such a terrible question that even answering it is just playing a game that's just broken. All right, protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Oh, by the way, I'm just going ahead and agreeing with that last one. It is regrettable that people that contribute nothing are contributing nothing. I would agree with that part. That's it, Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Protectionism. I mean, protectionism just means laws. What they're saying is laws. Big government is sometimes necessary in trade. And the truth is that if you're dealing with international trade, then yeah. I mean, I always say small government and stuff, but if there's any limitations on trade, then it allows for people to take over sections of the economy, which is good. If they're providing the best service and no one can do it for cheaper, then that's good. Because when these businesses get bigger, they tend to just get socialized kickbacks. So you cannot have a socialized kickback company trading across seas, because that's just basically money leaving our country. You can't have... Really, the problem is that because so many of our industries are receiving government money, there has to be this protectionism, because this major consumer called the huge government. It all comes down to big government, small government. And what they're doing with all of their questions is they're acting like that's not the only thing that matters. Because all of their questions are about this, really. Some of them, I can't tell, but most of the questions that I can interpret seem to be about whether they should have more laws or less laws. Now, so that means there's arguments for each and every one of these, but in the end, what we have is all of them, okay? That's why we have words for this stuff. So what they're saying is, like, do you believe in this law where the government... First off, it's so far down the rabbit hole to talk about trade, because we need to talk about what happens in your country. So right now, there's companies like Walmart that are taking government money, right? They're getting... First off, they got all these local government kickbacks, things like no taxes for 10 years or whatever. And then they got cities to pay for their transportation, because like a super Walmart needs bus stops, and it's going to need more intersections and lights and all that stuff, right? So the government is going to socialize having a high traffic area, installed, and then monitoring it, and then, all this stuff for a super Walmart to be built. And then once they are built, then they're also going to be getting, all of their taxes that can possibly be written off will be written off. Your taxes, who knows? That depends on how much you're going to shell out for tax service, which could just be considered, what you were going to lose anyway. Right? So it's like this. People are up in arms about the immigration. Why? Because there's already so much socialism here. When there's an immigrant family, now they come in and they start using the common schools, which are socialized. So now you got to have bigger schools, more schools, and then more teachers and more all that. And then, they probably get on food stamps or something like that. And so then that's a boon to the places like Walmart, right? Because they're getting more socialized money. They're getting a guaranteed food profit margin. That part's guaranteed because of being able to take these socialized monies, right? So then, immigration ends up being like a drain on the economy of the current system. Certainly. But without all this government interference in the first place, that wouldn't be the case. Because if someone came here in order to have a safe place to live, then, and it didn't come with taxation and it didn't come with a million rules on how to run a business. Guys, it's ridiculous. Let me get a drink here. Any business that you try and start is basically, there's a big old list of fees that you're going to have to pay first. So you're like, I need money. And then the government's like, oh, you say you need money. Well, how about if you give me money? Like, no, government, I don't think you heard me. I actually need money. So, no, I don't want to pay your fees and stuff because I actually need money. And that's why I'm trying to get money. And you're doing nothing and you're saying, give me money so that you can be qualified to get money. And it's like, guy, this is a cycle that's not right. Well, go and work at Arby's and save up. Yeah, that's a great idea. We have this strange system where it's like, okay, you're born, and here's what you need to do in your life. You need to get a house, you need to get transportation, and you need to find a skill so that you can subside. Your family has to be taken care of. Start building a family. That's the deal. That's what you need in your life. Okay, so step one, go to public education. Sit around and see if they ever teach you anything worth knowing. Because at the end of it, guess what? No one's going to pay for it. It's what everyone else knows. No one's paying for that. Not really, So that's why you end up just like putting burgers together or whatever, sweeping. So that's the deal. It's like, if you could just create businesses out of ideas in America, that's what people have called the American dream before. Then, this whole thing would be like a totally different. So what they're asking is, like, relative to today's political system, protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Let's just say disagree. I mean, I don't want to subsidize foreign trade. Okay? But I have to say disagree, because it's like the protectionism with all the socialism is necessary. But if we were able to cut the government down to where it doesn't bother people, and we can just make money because of, you have ideas, and then you write books, and then you produce, you produce your whatever, cocaine leaves or your meth or like whatever you want. You say, well, meth can't be legal. It can't be illegal. Okay? That failed. We saw that. That's the thing we saw. That failed. So, all right. Moving on. The only social responsibility of a company should be deliver a profit to its shareholders. I mean, it's begging the question of, should companies be held by... Okay, let's just be as cooperative as possible. Okay, I don't want to just be disagreeable, but the only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. I mean, if it's taking government money, then no, it owes lots of stuff. But if it's not taking government money, then all it has to do is, provide profit. Obviously, they have to be moral. Are we forgoing that part? Or what is this question asking here? There are no givens with these people. That's the deal. Is these poorly worded questions. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. Well, that's not a social responsibility. That's an economic responsibility. Profit, that's how you can tell. That's an economic responsibility. So the social responsibilities are whatever the social responsibilities are. So I would suggest not dumping oil and not put poison into the air, or, those are social responsibilities. Those are what you have to do, because otherwise people are going to expose you and you're not going to have support. I mean, if you had a free and open media type of concept. But yeah, we're so far down it that do I answer relative to this nonsense that we're in right now, or they're saying the only social responsibility is profit related, and that's clearly not even a social responsibility. So I have to say I strongly disagree. It's clearly not even these people are idiots. A doctor, it's probably a team of doctors. Guys, I went to college. They have doctors running around. I talked to them. They're idiots. Idiots. All right, so the rich are too highly taxed. That's a really interesting question, because I don't really know. The rich are too highly taxed. I would say, yeah, they probably are. I don't know. Some of these rich people are only getting paid by this economic entity that has the economic power of like states worth of citizens. There's the federal government. So I mean, in your system where you guys decide who's rich, no, they probably deserve more taxes, so that they're making about $19 an hour, I would say, for most of your people. But no, in a free and open society, the rich are not taxed heavily. Otherwise, they're just going to start lying to you. And then you have to come up with an enforcement agency. You have to have an apportioned tax. That's what the law is. That's what the Constitution says. What is a portion? Obviously, you're sitting down to family dinner for Thanksgiving, and there's a turkey, and there's a whole family, all your extended cousins, all that. So a portion is just a couple slices each. Somebody, the matriarch, is getting a drumstick or something. Like, apportioned. That means it's just so what's an apportioned tax would be like the sales tax. It's apportioned, except for it changes. So now it's apportioned differently for everyone. Because the whole economy in America is so goofy that to even pretend like these are not isolated, these are not defined variables, okay? In a heavily socialist society, the rich have to be heavily taxed because they're taking mostly citizens' money in order to build their little Walmart kingdoms across the country. That's the deal. Let me just try and take this at face value, though, and say that I disagree slightly, and say that everyone is too highly taxed. The rich are too highly taxed. Gosh, they are too highly taxed. So I need to agree slightly. Sorry, I did get that backwards. The rich are too highly taxed. Everyone is. I agree with that statement. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Access to higher standards. Here's the deal. Did we buy the hospital? We probably did, right? At some point. Okay, if you're talking about a socialized hospital that is just dumping millions of dollars on their doctors to look like a respectable career, I don't. Did we pay for this hospital that you're talking about? At face value, those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Yes. Governments should. Now, the problem is this, is that when you work all the time, right? And then you've got all these bills that are taken out, like water. Remember how it was asking about water? And you didn't even get any bottles. Okay, so you've got all these bills that are taken out by, first off, the people built all these water systems, right? And then now the people have to pay the government in order for to have this bottled water without the bottles delivered to them, right? And this has all been socialized at one level and another. They get these different tax breaks. They get different subsidies. They get different whatever it is that they're getting. They don't have like property taxes on their buildings, or they don't. There's something, there's some kind of scam going on to where we bought it and now we get to pay for using it, and then we're gonna have to pay for for closing it down, and then we're gonna pay for when we build another one. That's the situation. Is they've got everything socialized that shouldn't be, and nothing socialized that should be, and it's like, I mean, that's too blanket, but you kind of hear where I'm coming from. So, yeah, I don't see how we can have these socialized hospitals and answer this question honestly, but I don't know. I don't even know how to answer it. Since we do, everyone absolutely deserves medical care because it's the society that's paying for it. So since we do, then I disagree. But like in reality, no, you should be paying for. All right, so governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. No, they need to stay out of everything. Small government. So, everyone's been lying, guys. That's all the businesses. It honestly is. So when you give the government power to penalize somebody, then what they're going to do is selectively penalize. And that means it's going to be like the good guys. That's who's going to get penalized. So, no, I strongly disagree, obviously. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. They're saying a genuine free market requires restrictions. No, because that means it's not a free market. Some of these are just like they're just word games. They're basically asking me how dumb I am. And free market means not restrictions. So, duh. The freer the market, the freer the people. That's interesting. The freer the market, the freer the people. I can't think of any times when that was. would say that if you have a completely free market, I don't know, because what they're doing here is we've got another economic question, and then they're trying to apply it to something else. I don't know what it is they're trying to apply it to. They're trying to... This is economic freedom. So a more accurate statement would be the freer the market, the more economically free the people. Okay? That would be an exact it would be like a reversal of it, actually. The freer the market, the more economically free the people. But we're again not dealing with any society restrictions. So the freer the market, that means you can sell human meat, right? In an absolutely free market, if you can acquire some cheap meat, then you could sell it. The freer the market, it's apples and... What we're talking about is there's multiple categories to reality. And, there's cultural elements to your society. And that is not being expressed here. Like, my town would not be selling any human meat. But someone somewhere could do that. And the idea is that, like, I don't know how to answer this, but I'm going to just give it my best try. The freer the market, the freer the people. On face value, we're going to go with agree on free. The freer the market, the freer the people. Yes. This doesn't distinguish whether there's too much freedom or not. So there could potentially be too much freedom in an ultimately free market. Potentially, gosh, I'd hate to put strongly on anything. That's such a simple sentence that just does not really encapsulate what's going on. So I'm not going to go strongly, but I will say agree. Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. I mean, unfortunately, this is none of the government's business. If someone wants to murder their child, then, that's a local issue, and really that's a crime. But, abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. I mean, it should definitely always be illegal. But is it really the government's place to say what the penalty is? Or, I mean, government should be there to take care of things that we can't. Can a town figure out how to deal with this? I think they can. I think they can figure it out. So, while I say that abortion is murder every single time, even if the woman's life is threatened, that's still murder. If both of their lives are threatened, then it's not a murder. But if just the woman's life is threatened, then that is still murder. But should it be illegal? That's the question. Should it be illegal? Gonna have to just say strongly, or I mean agree, but I'm not gonna go strongly because the government needs to not be involved. Government listen, if you talk to somebody that wants to have an abortion, there's going to be two things that are going through their heads. There's going to be a lot of things going through their heads, okay? Not to minimize their situation. Here are a couple of things that could be going through some of their heads. One, I don't have enough money to pay my rent, let alone if there's a baby that I have to take care of and take time off work for and get a babysitter for and get childcare for, right? And what this is based on is the solid foundation that life costs lots of money and you got to work all the time. That's what that's based on. Women should have, husbands and, there's a way that man has worked out to solve this problem. But what they want to do is government interference. At every step, it's going to be like, well, they're going to have to be in school until they're 18. So that means they can't really help on the farm except for maybe weekends or something like that. So it's it's really limiting how useful a child is to you, but then reaping lots of benefits upon the government later when they can tax him for everything that he thinks about, right? So, should it be illegal? Yeah. Should the government build penitentiaries and house people that have abortions? No. I'm going with agree that it should be illegal, but in all honesty, this is a community thing, and communities that support each other do not grind up their kids. So, if you need a law that says to not do it, then it's not. I'm going to go strongly disagree. If you need a law to tell people not to grind up their kids, then you're done for anyway. Just get ready. Just get ready for more. So I'm going to say I strongly disagree because, the law is not what, honestly, if you can't figure it out, you're done. Okay, so all authority should be questioned. All authority should be questioned. Yes. I would say I'm going with strongly agree. All authority should be questioned. There are times when you wouldn't want to be questioning authority, there are some times, certainly, but hopefully you've questioned them before you're in that situation. So let's go strongly agree on that. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Um, I have to say disagree. I mean, the Bible says that is the old law, and now it's turned the other cheek. Um, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. I have to agree with the proverb. I don't know where it came from, but an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth leaves everyone, what, blind and toothless? I don't remember what it was. I'm going to have to agree with that and say disagree. I can definitely see the merits of it, but I've had so many people commit felonies against me that I don't even really want to get people charged at all for felonies, because it's like, this math is not adding up. More people are going to have to give up years of their life just for me to exist. And like, so I just don't even call the cops or anything really anymore. So I'm going ahead and saying strongly disagree on that. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. All right, so the problem is this. The citizens all came together and they built a water system, and now they get taxed for it monthly. The citizens built a power grid, and now they get taxed for it monthly. The citizens built some dams, and now they get taxed for power monthly. Okay, so the citizens built bridges, and now they pay tolls on them. So it's like, no, that's not always true. A lot of the toll roads were not taxpayer constructed. Taxpayer fund constructed. Some of them are, though. You can bet that at some point someone's like, oh, we could maintain that bridge and we'll just charge a toll that the citizens originally built. Guaranteed that happens lots. That's basically the main function of government. That's why socialism is bigger and bigger and bigger, because it's like, hand out this contract, hand out this contract, hand out this contract. So that's the deal. And then you got Friends for Life, right? Made everybody wealthy. We were all laughing and drinking champagne, laughing at the fools breaking their backs and sweating, right? Building our mansions. So I'm going to say that no, taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any bullshit. Strongly agree. Any bullshit, though. I mean, seriously, if you want it to be involved with government, it's got to be like a seriously solid case. Like the one made for public education? Nah. Nah. It's not going to be a case like that, because that failed in hindsight, right? 2020, right? Hindsight. As soon as somebody gets out of public education, it's basically like lights out. That guy will just be sweeping floors for the next 8 years. Then he'll figure out that he needs to start taxing people for not doing anything himself. That's all there is to it. Take a government job or something that way. All right, so schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Schools? They're saying government schools. You see how they're like, just like, oh, well, yeah, this part's given. Government schools. Compulsory. As far as I'm concerned, a teacher has literally zero authority over anything. So I'll just try and answer the question. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Strongly agree. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. That different sorts of people? I mean, what's a different sort of people? Like a cannibal? Check the recording. I know it's not perfect. Hopefully I get better at this. No promises. Alright, so all people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. And this is such a vague question that, I mean, it's like I said, one of my best roommates in college was from India. Parmod, great guy. Lost contact with them, and there's lots of Parmod Kumars, so. I mean, I don't know what they're talking about, different sorts of people. Some people are fine. People that exert their will on you tend to not be fine, but, like, what? I am an American, like, through and through. My family's been here, most of them, the whole time. There have been some immigrants mixed in throughout there, but I don't have a problem with Mexicans. Actually, I live around mostly Native Americans, and then there's probably a lot of Mexicans. I don't know. They're different than I am. I mean, that's why private property is probably just a good thing, because then you get to just decide who's different, and what kind of differences do you not like, and then you can go ahead and keep them, but keeping to their own kind, like by law, you're saying? No, you guys need to mind your own business. Are you kidding? Like, they need to, yeah. How about no murders, no rapes, okay? But they can. This is just like supposed to be a place where you could actually come and like make money, and that's what America is supposed to be. And I agree that it's not that. And in that case, it's like, yeah, we shouldn't have a bunch of like uneducated adults come into a society, and then now they don't have basic math skills, and they have to know this stuff because they're going to have to be paying like taxes. They're going to have to, or we're going to just have to take care of them. It's because of all these rules, though. So people should be able to move here for freedom, though. But there isn't freedom here anyway, so they want to move here for free stuff. This is the problem, is the socialism. It's all about that. So pretending like these questions are about like a four-pointed spectrum, that's ridiculous, but let's just continue. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. I would say strongly agree. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. Well, the ones that get spanked are probably going to be telling more secrets, but yeah, it's probably, let's see, from their parents. It's natural. This is all socialization. So if you're from a city, then that's totally a normal thing. But is it natural? I don't know. If you're like on the farm, people know each other like well. So is it natural? No, it's not natural. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Obviously. I strongly agree. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. I mean, jobs. Jobs really means working for some socialists, but I think it should be to equip them to be useful, but let's suppose that I am being semantic and that they mean useful jobs. Then I will agree. I mean, it should be to create jobs, to fill holes in the market, and to be able to excel in whatever it is that they find that they need to get into. So I'm gonna just say I agree because it's just not a very. There shouldn't be public schools. So the function of schooling should be like what the parents want that are paying the schools to be there and that are taking their kids there. So this is, do you see how they're all just assuming this like socialized school system? It's just, let's just try to answer it though. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. Whoa. I'm gonna say I strongly disagree. Like, if a person can't make that choice on their own or decides not to, then their kids are going to deal with that, and that's going to be okay because it's the person that's deciding it. And if he is like, oh, well, my kids will actually suffer, and so I'm just going to choose not to, then that's obviously, he can choose not to have a family. He can choose these things. So not be allowed, this is assuming that assuming that you got some socialized force that answers to no one and goes around and stamps out reproduction. It's like totally insane. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. I mean, the most important? No, it's not the most important. They need to learn to grow. And they're not going to need discipline if they are growing the right way. They're not going to need much. I mean, obviously, they need discipline, but most important thing, it's whatever their parents decide is most important for them to learn, and then the child is going to have to take part in becoming an adult himself, and then what is this question asking? About legislating this? Or what are they getting at? This is not political, is it? There are no savage and civilized peoples. There are only different cultures. No savage and civilized peoples. Only different cultures. I don't know. I would hate to pretend like I understand different cultures. Really. I barely understand my own culture. Seems like just whatever the TV says is the culture here. So if they don't have TVs, then yeah, who knows what could be going on. There are no savage and civilized peoples. I'm gonna say I disagree with that. Who knows? Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. Able to work and refuse the opportunity. Guys, a person should be able to live off the river. But the deal is the rivers are all dammed up and there's no, So it's because of all this interference, now at this point, it's now you got to work in our factories, and able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. I'm gonna have to say I agree with that. Strongly. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. I mean, it's going to depend on the trouble, obviously. There's time to think problems. There's in your face problems. So, when you are troubled about a raiding horde of bandits, then it's probably better to go ahead and think about it. I don't know. I subscribe to the poop in the pudding principle, which is that if you have a gallon of great pudding and just like one spoonful of poop, it's shit, all of it. So I would say no, you need to focus on the problem and get it solved. So I disagree. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. I strongly disagree. First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. Huh. Can never. It's kind of an absolute that, get triggered on that type of thing. But first generation immigrants are unlikely to, but someone immigrating from England is going to be, it's not even going to matter. So let's just go ahead and say disagree somewhat. Some places I agree. Cannibals, they're never going to be integrated probably, but what's good for the most successful? Oh, by the way, I've never met a cannibal, so not guaranteeing their existence, but so I'm operating off of the given too. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. I mean, what's good? Yeah, if it's good for them, then how could it be bad for us? For instance, is it good for a corporation if everybody gets poisoned from their product? No. That's bad for them. Is it good for them if they pollute their cities and everybody doesn't like them and doesn't buy their stuff and doesn't work for them? No. So, I mean, they're saying what's good. If it's good for them, ultimately, it's good for us. But they can forget societal needs. It's kind of the problem. That's why we need the bottled water, right? So, is always ultimately good for all of us. So, no, obviously not. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. Yeah, I would strongly agree with that. Now, I'm not a doctor, but Mr. Barry is. Oh, buddy. I'm Mr. Doctor. He's a PhD. Pretty handsome doggy. He is a doctor. Yeah. He's got a double doctorate in Big Spoon and chewing. But only on good stuff. He doesn't chew no shoes or furniture or cords, nothing like that. He did, but we dealt with that, huh, buddy? All right, so our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. I would say I strongly agree with that. It's interesting. I don't recall this question. I don't recall a lot of these questions. I've taken this before, but it was years ago when I was in college in a political science class. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. Yeah. I mean, I already told you I respect the political insights of the founding fathers, regardless of whether they're Masons or anything else. I think that they saw what the British were doing and they were like, well, it's pretty easy to come up with a Bill of Rights that is going to curb the ability of the government to become oppressive, and the checks and balance system was instituted in order to attempt to check the progressing horde of progress. So when you start at perfect, progress is moving away from perfect. That's not good. And I do pretty much consider rights to be perfect. That's why America became a great country. It's not because of all these rules and all the censorship and all the outsourcing and all the stuff that we do nowadays. It became great because people were educating themselves, and then they were actually building and creating and financing each other, and that's what made America developed. So getting to that should be the goal. So, I mean, you need to understand that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights was the pinnacle of this thought. So progress away from that is down the hill. We don't want progress. We don't want the government doing anything. If they weren't needed for it 2,000 years ago, like public water and things like this, then it's not needed now. So, name it. We don't need to socialize the medical system or the food system or the farmers or the anything. None of it. Free market. Let the free market work. Because as long as you're not sucking money out of every person, they don't need subsidized. Obviously. So let's just move on. Significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. It's built off so many just fallacies that I'm just going to say disagree. I don't know. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Obviously, I strongly disagree. The only people that you can't trust are the people that you've got spying on you already. All right, so the death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. Yeah. In a civilized society, do I have to defend that at all? Yeah, most serious of crimes is what it said. So, figure it out. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. What? No. You do not need a stratified society unless you're trying to keep control out of their hands. That's it. Strongly disagree. I mean, people will create their own rank. Someone will be a commander of industry. Someone will be you know, they'll set their own ranks. Don't worry. You don't need to worry about it. They will do it. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. Is this political? Abstract. I mean, art is almost meaningless. It means basically nothing. So I'm just going to disagree because it's just a person that would say that just needs disagreed with. That's why. I'm not saying it should be subsidized by public funds, though. Okay, let's not. Okay, we know. What are you asking here? No, don't subsidize any abstract art with public funds. Don't do that. Gotta figure out what these tricksters are up to. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. I mean, in criminal justice, there is no rehabilitation. Recidivism rates don't show rehabilitation. It's more of a, like, if you set them up with a job and stuff like that, then a person can come out of whatever, like, juvenile delinquency they're involved in. But if they're criminals, like, so I'm just gonna slightly disagree. I don't know. Punishment should be more important. I am gonna actually agree. It is about punishment. Oh, that's a tough one. You know, again, these terms are just so poorly defined that it's nonsense. It is a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals, obviously. I mean, you got a guy capturing people and eating them or something. Yeah. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. I mean, why is it up to me? Why can't we let just like the market decide without it being like, some books are going to be super important and some manufacturers are going to be very important. I don't know. I don't know why I have to declare. Why do I have to declare? It doesn't matter what I declare. In the end, there's going to be an accounting, and I don't have anything to do with it. But I'll just say we agree. I agree that, yeah, business, manufacturing. I mean, writing is a business. Writing is manufacturing ideas. Artist is manufacturing. I'll just say disagree. I don't know. I'll answer that. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. I mean, it is, but like, you don't need to tell anyone what their duty is. Like, I don't need to be telling you what your duty is. You can choose to go be a business person, but I wouldn't choose that for you. I'm not going to tell a person not to do something if that's what they want to do. But that's the deal, is why is it up to me to tell mothers what to do? I would like to be involved in the mother of my child's life and like telling that person, you know, like having some sort of a communication with that person about whether or not, and then no, and then right. But are they talking about making a law where women don't get to work? No, you don't need to. May have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Okay, I'll just agree. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. Wow. I mean, I've only heard rumors, but are unethically exploiting them. I like these guys want me to answer something about like some third world countries, and then like some private business that's operating there. I mean, yeah, has taken a hit these last few decades, but I have no idea about it.
Well, that's not perfect, but I think you can see it.
All right, is this the last page? 406. All right, so let's get to the end of this. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. Let's just go ahead and say that we agree. I don't know. I really don't know anything about this. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. I don't know what that means. Say disagree. Astrology accurately explains many things. See this? This is like an IQ test. This isn't a... like I couldn't even tell you. I honestly have not even looked into it. I'm going to say I disagree. You cannot be moral without being religious. I think that you could go your whole life and be a Christian and never talk about God. You can be moral without being religious. I think that you have to know that God exists, though. Otherwise, there's no telling. So let's say I disagree. Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. I mean, it would be. We're so far off of like capitalism, it's not what's going on. There are so many people that need money for their bills that charity is just not gonna work, really, at this point. The streets would be full of people asking for money all the time. What would be better is if the government freed these people to not have to, like, pay into Social Security every time they want to hire somebody. Maybe they're just paying them with leaves, That would be best, is just to get the government out of this whole thing. But that's the deal, is we have to pay so much on our bills because the government has got all this stuff socialized. And then they've got to come up with a way to pay their agents. And there's lots of them. So ideally, charity would be better. But not the way they have it. Be inundated. So, I mean, let's just say that I agree. It would be better if nobody needed charity. Like, once you figure out a water system for your city, do you really think it costs $100 per person to maintain it? It's building it, So it was built whenever, 100 years ago. So I'm going to go ahead and say that it is better, ideally, but again, this question is just, it's leaving out so much. This is not social science. This is just nonsense. Some people are naturally unlucky. again, I don't know what that is. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. Ideally, that would be you. But yeah, when the child goes to a school that teaches the opposite of the religious values, then I would say that that's a problem. There shouldn't be these socialized schools. Somebody that's a Catholic should be able to send their child to a Catholic school if they want. I wouldn't suggest it, but that's the deal, is we need to get the government out of the schools, and then religion can go ahead and be in the schools. There should be the separation, but we don't have that separation. So, I mean, I would say that, yeah, it's important. All right, this is the final page. After this, we're going to finally get to the bread and butter, where I just show that this whole thing is a scam from beginning to end, and why. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. Yeah, I would agree with that. A same-sex couple is a stable, loving relationship, should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. I mean, do you want to give your child up to a same-sex couple? I would say that should be, if you are adopting your child out, then you will probably ought to know who is getting the child. Do you understand that the problem here is not whether they are gay or not? It's that there's going to be a government entity involved that's like, what do you do? And then, oh, okay, then that means that we get to tell you this or that or this. Like, no, the state shouldn't be in the adoption business anyway. So, should not be excluded. So we've got a double negative here. This is their bread and butter. This is their claim to fame, doctoral candidate, or they're probably already, they got their doctorates, I'm sure of it. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship, so should be allowed to adopt a child would be the opposite. Okay, so let's see. I mean, they should be allowed to adopt from the child's, what do I have to do with this? I'm not giving some gay people my child. So why is this a question? Someone else can answer this question for themselves, okay? And I'm hoping that they answer the same way as me, but that's not my business. It's not the government's business. It's not... Yeah, if you want to give up your child, then guess what? That child has got little to no chance without you anyway. So, yeah, you might be better off giving them to a weirdo than just leaving them in the woods. So, and if you're going to give up your kid, then you might just be leaving them in the woods. So go ahead and give them to whoever it's your child. So should not be excluded. So I guess I'll agree with that. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. Yeah. Nobody needs to, get involved. I mean, pornography, consenting adults. Yeah, okay. So, yeah. Okay. I would say that I strongly agree it should be legal, but I don't agree with what's going on, really. It's kind of weird that it's restricted to adults, allegedly, but then it's on the same internet as everybody. So, whatever, though. Yeah, it should be legal. The government needs to mind its business. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. I would have to strongly agree with that. No one can feel naturally homosexual. I don't think they can, but I mean, I'm not going to take a stand on it. I think that homosexual is basically the lack of a personality. They see a personality on the TV and they start mimicking it. That's what I see. So I'd say I agree. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. Uh, I don't know. I don't have people coming up to me and telling me about sex, so I can't sympathize really. All right, so now we're going to go see the political compass that these guys endorse. And these are professionals, but they're professionally retarded. I mean, honestly, I'm not really accusing them of being retarded. They're here to deceive. So, about the political compass. In the introduction, we explain the inadequacies of the traditional left-right line. Actually, I did not see that. We'll have to go look at that. Guys, knock it off. If we recognize that this is essentially an economic line, it's fine as far as it goes. We can show, for example, Stalin, Mao, Zedong, and Pol Pot with their commitment to a totally controlled economy on the hard left. Socialists like Mahatma Gandhi and Robert Mugabe would occupy a less extreme leftist position. Margaret Thatcher would be well over to the right, but further right still would be someone like that ultimate free marketeer, General Pinochet. Yeah. What they're doing with this is they're trying to impress you with their alleged knowledge of history. But we need to get to their explanation of why left and right does not work, because everything that we've been talking about is left-right. Left-right. Small governments don't tend to have one psychotic sector that's taking billions of dollars and like imprisoning everybody. Okay? Only gigantic governments do that. That's period. All right. So that deals with economics, but the social dimension is also important in politics. That's the one that the mere left-right scale doesn't adequately address. Exactly. It's not a political scale. It's a social scale. Exactly. They're admitting right here what they've done. And guys, almost every single industry or, it's mostly like the socialized sciences. They accept nonsense like this just constantly. All right, so as I said, if you don't have a whole bunch of extra money for the government to go around outlawing and like checking people's bedrooms to see what they're doing and stuff like that, it's very simple. Like, it doesn't happen. That's it's all economics. Everything with the government costs money, or it provides money, And guess what? We're the providers, and all of this stuff that they talk about, education, all this stuff is the taking side of it. So these guys claim, first off, they claim that there's a left on the economic scale, and then there's a right. All right? But this is what we've been talking about the whole time. They're claiming that authoritarian is up, libertarian is down. No. When you respect liberty, you spend little on government, because that's the liberty. When you think the government is needed to control everything, that's when you are an authoritarian and you are a leftist. Same thing. These are the exact same thing. So when you're authoritarian in your societal beliefs, that's the same as in your economic beliefs. All right, so you're either going to take money to enforce this, or you are not going to take money to enforce. And that's going to determine where you are along here. So their scale is just complete nonsense. Both an economic dimension and a social dimension are important factors for a proper political analysis. Okay, sure, sure, you could definitely take a look at that. But if the government doesn't have extra money, then it doesn't do this extra stuff. Period. That's all there is to it. Money. So by adding the social dimension, you can show that Stalin was an authoritarian leftist, i.e. the state is more important than the individual, and that Gandhi, believing in the supreme value of each individual, is a liberal leftist. Okay? And thus enters the never-ending paradigm of just mushing two things together and mushing stuff together and just like, okay, it went from two, are you this or are you that, right? Which is still 100% relevant. To now it's, now there's four. And guess what? Now when you add on, are you an authoritarian fascist or are you a fascist right-wing fascist neoliberal? Okay, then it goes up to what? Up to 16 or something combinations, and then up to 64 or whatever. So that's the deal, is just divide and conquer. That's why they do this. That's why left doesn't mean anything. Watch, authoritarian means something. And then look, libertarian is the opposite side of that. But then what is left and right? Nothing. Two sides. You just turn around and then the right becomes the left. It's nothing. What is it? It's this. If you are right-wing, you're a libertarian. If you are left-wing, you are authoritarian. Period. Do you have... look, it's all economy. It has nothing to do with this stuff. This idea that the state needs to interfere in any of it is money. Okay? If they need to interfere, then the public says, you get this much money. You need to interfere. This is how much you got. So, you can also put Pinochet, but this is the thing, is these people, none of these people were anything. They were all authoritarian globalists, or they were for the people. And so, this is their scale. Stalin, they say, was a left-wing authoritarian. And they say that Hitler was not so much left-wing. Well, he socialized all his industry, all of industry, I believe. So that means that he took control of private property. So he's not on the right at all. He started wars. He got people to death. How is he on the right at all? He's not. Margaret Thatcher, I don't know too much about her. Friedman, Gandhi, I don't know a lot about him, but look at this. If you forget this third dimension that they're attempting to put in there, then you've got Stalin and Gandhi in pretty close places, because he believed in a strong state. And where does it head with the strong state? Is towards, these are the death camps, right? This guy should be way over here. I don't understand why he's not. They say that he's neo-Nazi or Nazi is National Socialist. Socialism. Socialism is where the government owns the business. That's socialism. So, that's not good. That's like what our schools are, and all of it. Police and, most of it. Soon medical and the food and all of that. That's all socialized. So, and that's not right wing at all. That's why right doesn't mean anything. Right means the opposite of authoritarian. That's what it means. It's conserving. So think about it. A conserver, he conserves, but he also steals all the private property and gives it to the government. Okay? So, what? Just because he thinks that women should be at home? No. He is I mean, I wasn't there. Maybe he wasn't as bad as they say, right? But he was a socialist. So he was way over here. Gandhi, I don't know. If he was saying a big government, then he's way over here. If you think that government should be taken over anything that needs to be solved, then you are a leftist. You are an authoritarian. You want an authority over everything. Okay? So, like, deciding what... This is so crazy. Let's see where this nonsense puts me. In our homepage, we demolished the myth that authoritarianism is necessarily right-wing with the examples of these people. Yeah. Do you see what it is? It's all just nonsense. It's an endless... These guys are so full of shit. I can't even get through their nonsense. To the left of some of today's labor parties, if you could get Hitler and Stalin to sit down together and avoid economics, the two diehard authoritarians would find plenty of common ground. What? Stalin? They were literally at war. And you're saying just because of economics. These guys are insane, people. They probably would have sat down together because they were both doing the same thing, power grab, right? I mean, in one form or another, I don't know. Maybe they were both justified, maybe neither of them were. So this is all just complete nonsense. Complete nonsense. Look at where it puts me. The right libertarian. No, I'm just on the right. I'm just on the right. Explain to me how it is that this scale doesn't change if I say that gay marriage should be illegal, then it should be, it's got to go this way. It has to go this way. So these guys are putting me at basically like a centrist, which is, you know, these people are ridiculous. So, yeah, a social libertarian. These people are so nonsensical. This is the part where they want money for how smart they are. Look, what we did is we made it so... Look, guys, what's the difference between Hitler and Stalin? Like, just tell me. People like Hitler. So is that because he was over here in the middle? Middle. Think about that. Middle. That means he doesn't know. He's like, oh, is that better? Is that better? I don't know. Middle. He's in the middle. Guys, he started world wars, and he's considered, look at this, collectivism. Collectivism. Okay, so authoritarian is collective. Libertarian is libertarian. It's funny, huh? Look at it. It says it. So this is anarchism. Anarchy. Anarchy. Okay, so what do governments need to exist? Money. Money, right? So if you have no government, then that means that there is no government spending, right? That's anarchy. So they're saying that anarchy is the bottom, and no one is an anarchist. Look at this. No one would dare go down there. Look at this. Friedman. So I don't know anything about him. Margaret Thatcher was England. And what did she lead her country into? I wouldn't want to be in England right now. I'll tell you that much. So this is just nonsense. Anarchy means without government. Okay? And you'll notice that it's the same as libertarian because it's full liberty. No government is full liberty. And then, it couldn't be any simpler. So we got on the right here, libertarianism. On the bottom, we have libertarian. See? Libertarian. Libertarian. So right and libertarian are the exact same. Left, collectivism and fascism are the exact same. I mean, it's even got it labeled as the same right here. This is a spectrum. So if this is the same as this, then that means that this is the opposite of this one. And this one's the opposite of this one. You understand? So libertarian. Libertarian. All right, so it's all just nonsense. Just because this guy, they're basically saying because he believed in something like religion in his socialized schools that he's on the right. I don't think so. No, he had a huge war machine. That's lots and lots of government. And what does this show us? That the opposite of libertarian is authoritarian. See, so here's libertarianism. The opposite of it is collectivism. Same as here, libertarian, opposite is fascism. See? This is their own site. So many industries have got complete just nonsense that they're based around. This is well respected. Guys, we can do the same thing with a pastor. No one even knows what they're doing at all. So that's where it puts me, which is just completely ridiculous. I would say I'm just right here. Of course, I only believe in the left-right spectrum. The rest of it is just, you heard me. I was like, hey, how is this any of my business? Why do I have to decide what somebody else is doing somewhere? Let them, they can take care of them. I'll take care of them. And then they're calling that libertarian. Well, yeah, because that's right. That's the right. I mean, it's really as simple as the right and the wrong, but it's called the right and the left. Oh, look, this guy's connected to New Zealand. I think we know that whole country's bought and paid for. All right, well, that's all there is today, but don't take anybody as an expert of anything. This is in response to, let me show you what this is about. This is about this Nick Fuentes video where he's talking about what is conservatism, and he has no idea. He parrots these definitions that are given, but like I just showed you, the scale is simply left, right. And they just confuse the issue so that you would not figure out it's just left and right. Once you get that figured out, then you start realizing what's wrong with the Republican Party. Because you've got policies like the drug war. Well, that's a big government. How about any wars? That's big government. How about, just new social systems? That's big government. So everything is left, right? But when the Republicans are like, no, we don't want to do welfare and stuff, but we do want to do big war. No, that's still left. That's still leftism. That's not conservatism. That's still leftism. That's the problem in this country is they're like, there isn't a distinction. People don't understand what's going on. There is only left and right. There is only authoritarian and leaving people alone. And in your community, you're going to have problems. You're going to have crimes. You're going to have people that are going to need to be kicked out or whatever, shot or whatever the situation is. It's going to happen. But the question is, how much of the government needs to be involved in this? Can people solve problems on their own? If they can't, then yeah, you got to make everything illegal and then the government needs to wipe everyone's butt. If they can, then the government needs to be literally as tiny as theoretically possible. Every generation we should be like, how are we going to make the government even smaller? So like right now we should have automated post offices and stuff like that so that we don't have to necessarily employ people there. And yeah, they'll have Google trucks driving mail back and forth soon enough anyway, right? So figure out how to get the spending down. But instead, both parties are like, how do we make our friends rich? This is the problem. Because it turns out that when you're in it to make your friends rich, then there's going to be lots and lots of topics for you to invade people's rights with, really. When it's just as simple as, do you want to increase the size of the government or do you want to make it smaller? If you're increasing it, is it really for the public good? Is it... Like, I'm not denying that some things are for the public good. They are. But everything certainly isn't. And they've dipped their fingers into everything. They subsidize what crops are grown over here, and they tax and benefit people that are growing this particular thing, and they put people in jail for growing that particular thing. And in the end, it's like, guys, if we all starve, it's because of all this nonsense. We do know that, right? So, yeah, try and keep it real. Thanks for joining.